A 12-year-old boy ran from house to house begging for help. He was malnourished, injured, duct tape at the wrist and ankles. This wasn't done by a stranger. It was his own mother. But before we get into that story, you need to understand where all of this started. In January 2015, Ruby Franke created a channel called 8 Passengers. Early on, the content focused on family vlogs, the ups and downs of being a mother, homeschooling, cooking, basic meals, and parenting advice.
Wait. I have to get it on camera.
Why?
Say it one more time.
I want to help you bake all day.
Yes!
Over time, the channel grew to about 2 million subscribers and roughly 1 billion total views. But slowly, people started to notice something horrible. Back in 2020, Ruby's teenage son Chad said his bed was taken away and he'd been sleeping on a beanbag for months as punishment.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I was sleeping on a beanbag since October.
Not only that, but Ruby also said that whenever Chad and his younger brother Russell wrestled in the house, they could lose the privilege of eating dinner. It was also reported that Chad was sent to the Anasazi Foundation, an outdoor program where teens are taken into the wilderness for weeks to correct their behavior.
So you're probably wondering what the heck we're talking about. Chad today has just entered the Anasazi Foundation Wilderness Therapy Program, where he's going to spend the next 8 to 10 weeks living in the
Anasazi Desert.
the desert mountains of Arizona.
Her smile of joy, knowing he would be suffering in the desert? I don't understand why America have that kind of camps. It's like torture camps for teenagers. Wait, torture camps? Because of that comment, I did some digging and found that the Anasazi Foundation has been accused by former participants of emotional and verbal abuse, along with things like homophobia, forced religion, and racism. Some people who went through the program say it left them with PTSD. And boy, as I went deeper to see if these claims were true, what I found was honestly very disturbing. Parents, seriously, do not send your kids to this horrible place. You will regret it and will ruin your child. Read all the reviews, do your homework before signing your child up for this cult-like facility. This camp is homophobic and abusive. They try to push their beliefs onto innocent kids. Please, if you don't want your kid to hate you, then don't send them to this camp. But to be fair, there are some reviews that are positive. What's a little sus though is that some reviews were removed for violating the terms of service. Still, if the foundation has a lot of negative reviews, why would you risk your child by sending them there? Well, why would I even ask? When Ruby herself has a long-ass history of controversial parenting. Like her 6-year-old forgot their lunch and Ruby refused to bring it to her kid.
I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, was responsible for making her lunches in the morning, so the natural outcome is
She even said she hoped nobody stepped in to give them food. Bro, punishing a 6-year-old for simply forgetting their lunch is diabolical. Even my Asian parents would be shocked if they heard this. And if that shit ain't psycho enough, can you even imagine threatening your own kid by taking away meals as punishment? Or even threatening to cut the head off their teddy bear? Or on Christmas Day, can you picture yourself sitting there, watching everyone open presents, while your youngest kids or siblings get nothing at all? And Ruby did all this horrifying shit to her own kids. She openly talked about not letting her kids eat until chores were done, and said they weren't allowed to get food for themselves at all. Same thing with using the bathroom. She even said the kids could only use it if they did extra chores. What the fuck? By 2022, police and neighbors started getting involved. A DCFS worker contacted police after being told that 2 of the kids were running in the road unsupervised, but at the time, the police saw nothing. In September 2022, Ruby's oldest daughter, Shari, who was living away in college, requested a welfare check. She told police that a neighbor believed the younger kids had been home alone for 5 days, while Ruby was away with Jodi Hildebrandt. But who the hell is Jodi? Jodi Hildebrandt was behind ConneXions Classroom. It was basically an online coaching business where people paid for videos, workbooks, and workshops that, promised to fix behavior and family problems. But Jodi also had some red flags, like when her license was restricted in January 2012 before later being cleared, and she shared private client information with church leaders and other therapists without permission. And ConneXions itself got expensive and very controlling for some clients. One former client said they were paying a monthly fee just to join group video calls, another weekly fee for smaller group sessions, plus weekly charges for one-on-one coaching. All of that added up to more than $1,000 a month. But that's not all. The same client also said they were pressured to cut off friends and relatives, live separated from family, and follow the coach's rules without questioning them. What the heck is this cult-ass bullcrap? Around 2019, Ruby started working closely with Jodi, and for some reason, Kevin was pushed out of the home and Jodi moved in. What? But why? We'll get into that later. But first, Ruby stopped posting regular family updates and rebranded the 8 Passengers Instagram to Moms of Truth, where the content shifted into preachy clips about blame, lying, moral rules, and yada yada BS. But around August 2023, this madness needed to stop. Ruby's 12-year-old son escaped from Jodi's home in Ivans, where Ruby and the children were staying at the time. He ran to nearby houses, begging for help. When one neighbor finally opened the door, the boy asked for food and water and begged to be taken to a police station.
Taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine.
What's going on, son? Have a seat there.
It's personal business.
Have a seat.
He was severely malnourished, had duct tape wrapped around his wrists and ankles, and was barefoot. After seeing the child's horrifying condition, the neighbor immediately called 911.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs.
First responders arrived and rushed the boy to the hospital because of how serious his condition was. Not only was he badly malnourished, but he also had open and infected wounds that police said were from being tied up with rope. Once police realized the boy had come from Jodi's home, they went there to check if any other children were still there. Officers found Ruby's younger daughter. She was described as malnourished and extremely fearful. She was so scared that the police spent nearly 4 hours trying to get her to come out from a closet area. And also, the police did find items like ropes and handcuffs inside the home. So Ruby and Jodi were arrested on August 30, 2023 in Ivans, Utah. Not long after, both were charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse in Washington City. Ruby Franke later admitted to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. I need to warn you though, what comes next is really disturbing. Ruby said Russell was forced to do exhausting physical work for hours at a time, sometimes stretching over multiple days. That included holding wall sits, carrying boxes filled with books up and down stairs, and doing long stretches of outdoor labor. At one point, he was made to work outside barefoot in the summer heat that regularly reaches over 100 degrees. She also said Russell was kept without enough water for days and was punished when he secretly drank it. He was given very little food, and when he was fed, it was just plain meals while everyone else in the house ate normally. Ruby said Russell was kept isolated and cut off from anything that might distract or comfort him. He wasn't allowed books, notebooks, or any electronics. After Russell tried to run away in July, things got even worse. Ruby said his hands and feet were regularly restrained. Sometimes he was tied directly to her or to weights. Other times, his wrists and ankles were cuffed at the same time. In some cases, ropes were used to connect the cuffs while he was forced to lie on his stomach, lifting his arms and legs off the ground. She also said these restraints caused serious injuries. The cuffs cut into his skin and damaged tissue. Instead of taking him to get medical help, the wounds were treated at home, covered with duct tape, and then the restraints were put back on over the tape. Ruby also said she physically hurt him, including kicking him while wearing boots, holding his head underwater and cutting off his breathing by covering his mouth and nose. Ruby also admitted that Eve Franke was put through many years of the same things as her brother Russell. She was made to work outside barefoot in extreme heat, and as a result, her feet were repeatedly injured and she suffered multiple sunburns. When she was examined on August 30, officers noticed visible injuries, visible scabs, blisters, and peeling skin. Ruby also admitted that she and Jodi repeatedly messed with the kids psychologically. The children were told they were evil and possessed, that they had to obey to avoid punishment, and that the punishment itself was needed for them to repent. They were even told that what was being done to them was actually an act of love. As part of her guilty plea, Ruby agreed to serve prison time and to testify truthfully against Jodi. So in February 2024, Ruby Franke was sentenced for child abuse. She received 4 prison sentences, and each one carries a possible range of 1 to 15 years. Those sentences are served one after the other, which means Ruby now faces anywhere from 4 to 60 years in prison.
Ms. Franke served 4 counts, 4 1 to 15 year sentences based on her convictions for 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. Again, they will be served consecutively pursuant to the parties' agreement and the applicable statute. Under the applicable statute, the court finds that consecutive sentences are appropriate.
Depending on how long she is kept on each one. The same sentence structure was also given to Jodi Hildebrandt. In court, Ruby read a statement where she said she followed counseling guidance that pulled her into what she called a dark delusion, and she described cutting herself off from anyone who challenged her beliefs. She also pushed back on the idea that she was Jodi's business partner, saying she was not employed by Jodi or ConneXions. Instead, she described Jodi first as her son's counselor, then later as her mentor. Ruby even thanked police and said that the moment a detective handcuffed her was when she gained her freedom.
Who came and saved my children. I especially want to thank Detective J. Bate. She plucked me out of a situation I didn't know how to get out of. And
even tried to say sorry.
To my babies, my 6 little chicks, you were a part of me. I was the mama duck who was consistently watering you to safety. I can see now, over the past 4 years, I was in a deep undercurrent that led us to danger. I never led you to darkness knowingly.
When it came to Jodi, the judge told her she terrorized the children and criticized her whole belief system as disconnected from decency and common sense. And because of everything that came out, Ruby Franke was effectively platform banned. YouTube confirmed that it terminated channels linked to Ruby Franke and that she is no longer allowed to create content on the platform. She also isn't allowed to own or run any new channels. YouTube removed Ruby's videos and channels and also wiped content connected to Jodi Hildebrandt. YouTube warned other creators not to re-upload their clips. Any re-uploads of Ruby or Jodi's content could be taken down, and accounts that repost them could be terminated as well. But at least on the good side, Utah passed a new law to protect kids who appear in monetized social media content. This law came directly after Ruby's case, with Kevin Franke pushing lawmakers to act. The law is called HB 322. This law applies only when a child is heavily featured in content and the channel earns significant money. Specifically, the child appears in about 1/3 of the creator's content and the creator makes at least $150,000 a year from social media. If both those are true, the kid is legally protected under this law. And if a channel makes money and a child is a big part of the content, some of that money legally belongs to the child. Parents are required to calculate how much of the income came from content featuring the child and place it into a trust. The money is set aside for the child, can't be touched by the parent, and only becomes accessible once the child turns 18. And creators have to keep monthly records showing how much money was made and how it was handled. If they didn't follow the rules, the child can sue them after turning 18, including asking for damages and legal fees, and they can demand that content featuring them as a minor be deleted or edited. If the creator refuses, there's a legal process to force it through the platform. But aside from pushing lawmakers to act, what actually happened to Ruby Franke's husband, Kevin? And what is the current status of the rest of the family, especially the kids? Kevin was already separated from Ruby before the arrests. Ruby later told investigators she made him move out in July 2022 and stopped contacting the kids, tied to claims that he needed help for addictions, including pornography. After the August 2023 arrests, the children were placed under Utah child welfare care, and Kevin started fighting to regain custody. He filed for divorce in November 2023. In April 2024, Kevin sued Jodi Hildebrandt, saying her actions harmed him and his children, and claiming Ruby moved the 4 younger kids into Jodi's home around May 2023 without telling him. The divorce was finalized in March 2025, and Kevin was granted sole custody of the 4 children who were still minors at the time. Ruby was also ordered to have no contact with the minor children. The 2 oldest kids, Sherry and Chad, are adults and have been the most public. They spoke out about the case and later took part in a Hulu docuseries about the family. For the other children, there is less reliable public detail, largely for privacy. What is confirmed is that the 4 minors were initially placed with child welfare services after the rescue, and later returned to Kevin's custody under the divorce outcome. And Kevin later remarried around November 2025, and Shari publicly supported it. Now subscribe or you'll be single for 60 years, like Ruby.